couple of months ago, Conrad Thompson, he was hosting an episode of Jim Ross's podcast. He and JR were talking, and he dropped a little bit of tea during that show. And he said that a mutual friend of theirs had heard from somebody that Shane McMahon had reached out to someone on the AEW roster. And he had reached out to somebody on the roster about, hypothetically, discussing the possibility of coming into the company. Dave Meltzer had followed up that report. He said it was really just two people chatting. There really was nothing serious to the conversation. But it was something to the effect of Shane saying to this person, "Can you imagine the reaction if I were to show up one week randomly on Dynamite?" It wasn't meant to be a serious thing. So when Meltzer asked Tony Khan about Shane, Meltzer, asked him, anything to this? Have you had any meetings or discussions with Shane McMahon? Khan had told him that he never met him before. He never met him. He had never spoken to him, which at the time was true, as far as anybody knows. Then a few weeks ago, we had Mercedes Moné, who just so happens to bump into who at the airport? Shane McMahon. She wrote about it in her newsletter. A chance meeting with Shane McMahon. Then this morning, Dynamite, of course, tonight facing competition from the Olympics, as most shows are this week. And they also have their television rights deal hanging in the balance, right? Any day now, any week now, we're going to hear something most likely about AEW renewing with Warner Brothers Discovery. For how long and for how much, we don't know. But news on that deal, I would expect, is coming imminently. Imminently can mean days or weeks. But with all of that kind of hanging over things, we were graced with this image earlier this morning from Wrestle Talk. And the following report accompanied it. Wrestle Talk and Fightful have learned that AEW CEO Tony Khan had a private meeting with Shane McMahon this week. We can report that the meeting took place in an office at a private Arlington airport on Monday, July 29th. And for those who don't know, AEW is running a residency there for a Collision at the Esports Auditorium now through All in London. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful has confirmed with sources that the meeting did take place, with Khan and McMahon discussing, quote, possibilities moving forward. Sapp noted that Khan had been open to talking with McMahon for a while, but it's believed that they had never met or even spoken before the rumors about McMahon possibly joining AEW emerged. Khan is said to have been very open to using Shane McMahon for several weeks now, and has also made it very clear that he was open to the idea of talking to him when people have brought up the topic to him backstage. Says Shane McMahon has been absent from WWE since WrestleMania 39 in April of 2023, where he tore his quad just seconds into a match against The Miz. Fightful reported in June of 2024 that he was under no kind of contract with WWE as of that story being released. WrestleVotes tweeted after all of this came out this morning, asked a longtime WWE employee friendly with Shane for thoughts on the Tony Khan picture. The response, Shane's as smart as they come. Taking a preliminary meeting does not surprise anyone here. Now, looking at this photo, and by the way, what a photo this is, I must say. Tony Khan, I don't know that there are many photos where he doesn't look awkward in some way. So here he appears to be picking some crust out of his eye. Maybe he just woke up from a nap. Shane, of course, standing up, leaning against the office chair, looking up at the photo like, you got to be fucking kidding me. I don't know who snapped this photo. Whoever it was, Tony and Shane were looking directly at them. Okay, so they know who it is. So there is no chance that Tony did not want this photo to be leaked to get people talking. Is anybody wondering about that? I don't buy that for a second. He wanted this photo to be out there, and now it is, and now this is all anybody is talking about. Now, to the point that WrestleVotes made, Shane's a savvy guy. He knows taking a meeting with Tony Khan is going to get around. And if WWE does not want him going to AEW for whatever reason, even though, he's not under contract right now, he's not being used at the moment, I don't think he really has any sort of contractual ties at all right now to WWE. But if they did not want him to go to AEW, then they would make him an offer to come back, which I'm sure he would love. And if WWE is not interested in bringing back Shane McMahon and they don't want to make him an offer, well, I'm sure Tony Khan would. And then he could take the money and he can go to AEW. So for Shane McMahon in this situation, there is no downside to wanting to have a conversation or a meeting with Tony Khan, right? He loses nothing out of this. If nothing else, it's a getting to know you conversation. These two have never met before. They don't know each other. Maybe they have something in common. And at best, maybe he actually gets a deal out of it. So for Shane, he's got nothing to lose. The appeal of AEW from the start, and I said this when these rumors first popped up in June. The appeal of AEW at the very beginning is that it was not WWE, okay? Just to put it bluntly. It was an alternative. They were hoping for it to be a true alternative. At the time, the WWE product was not good. Okay, we're going back now 2018, 2019. You can pick and choose certain things that you probably liked from that period, but by and large, WWE television was no good. And there was a lot of garbage that if you were a weekly viewer or a podcaster and you were watching the shows every single week, it was very tough. AEW came along at just the right time. It really did. It sprouted up at just the right moment when there were a lot of people who were clamoring for something other than WWE on a national stage. And so the appeal of AEW in part was that it was a McMahon-free zone. You didn't have to worry about the McMahons. You didn't have to worry about a McMahon product on TV. Shane was always the one who I think people liked the most, or at least tolerated the most out of all the McMahons, because honestly, he's a likable guy. He seems like a likable guy. But the thing with Shane McMahon is it wasn't as overexposed as Vince was and Stephanie was. And of course, Linda, she ducked out years ago, so she hasn't been part of this for a long time. But that was the appeal. It was a McMahon-free zone. So the idea of seeing a McMahon involved with the company, whether it's in a backstage role or it's on television as an on-air character, it's just wild. It's just a bizarre thing to think about. 2 months ago, you would have said it out loud and said, yeah, right, that'll never happen. And now here we are. We live in a world where it could very well happen, right? Clearly there's smoke to the fire here if there was a meeting between the two of them. But especially if as part of any kind of deal here, if the idea was that Shane was going to be an on-air character, an on-screen personality in some way, get physical, do a lot of the same stuff he was doing in WWE. This last run that he had in the company outside of that one Royal Rumble, where apparently he had a producer role behind the scenes and pissed everybody off and effectively got fired and sent home by his own father. Outside of that, he was brought back as a talent. He was not an executive in the company. He was not an agent. He was not an EVP. He was not booking anything. He had no power. He was an on-screen character. So for all the talk about how Shane was always the most likable McMahon because he wasn't overexposed the way that they were, that took a back seat in this last run because he was as overexposed as anybody. But that's all he was. He was an on-screen character. And so knowing that, I cannot wrap my head around this idea or this notion. It's just weird to me. Cannot fathom why people would be excited about this in 2024. And I see a mix of opinions online. There are people, as far as whether or not Shane McMahon should come to AEW, there are people who think it would be a terrible idea. There are people who think it would be a wonderful idea, and who are genuinely excited about the prospect of Shane McMahon joining this company. It excites them in some way. It gives them a feeling of like electric shock through their legs, through their bodies. This is very exciting to these people. And there are people who also think that this is just what the doctor ordered. This is just what AEW needs at the time that they need it. What they need is Shane McMahon. And I read this and I see this and I hear this. Let me ask you this. I'm going to ask a very simple question. Why? Why? Why do you think Tony Khan needs Shane McMahon? What is it about Shane McMahon that you think AEW, this disease that ails AEW, all the problems that they're having and the ratings and the numbers being down, right? We've talked about this before, ratings issues and attendance issues and all of these different things. What is it about Shane McMahon that makes people think that, he is the solution to what ails this company? I don't get it. I don't understand. Some people want him to join to become part of the elite angle, which is a dead angle, right? We can all agree. The elite angle is a dead angle. It is. There's no way that the elite storyline has progressed in the way that Tony Khan was hoping it would when he got dropped on his head by the Young Bucks back in May. And then he was gone for what? Maybe not even a week, right? And then he was back. They did this the same week of, I think it was the NFL draft. And so he put the neck brace on. He got a little bit of publicity out of it, but he got dropped on his head. And there was no attempt to even sell it and keep him out for a certain period of time. We may never see Tony Khan again. I think he was being followed that week for a documentary that was being filmed, I think, by the NFL. That's probably why they did it. So they got a little bit of publicity that week out of the angle and a little bit of buzz, and there were people wondering, hey, where's this going to lead, right? We got Okada and the Bucks, and they just brought back Jack Perry, and oh my God, look what they did to Tony Khan, and this could be the catalyst for change in AEW. This could be the big storyline that they've been looking for, the big storyline that they've been missing. This could carry them through the entire summer. The thing was dead within 6 weeks. Nobody cares. And nobody cares in part because, again, they brought Tony Khan back so quickly and they've shown him literally sitting in the back, and they have established that Tony Khan is calling the shots behind the scenes. And so what power do the EVPs really have? I mean, they're trying to establish that they can make decisions unilaterally and they have power. The whole thing is a fucking disaster because none of it makes any sense. So the idea of bringing Shane McMahon in to sort of inject or infuse life into this story, or, he could be the money man here, right? He could be the money man behind the elite. That's one idea that some people are talking about. Other people talking about him maybe being in a general manager type of role. Doesn't necessarily just have to do with the elite, but he can be in some sort of authority position on TV. Right? Since there seem to be a lot of authority figures all of a sudden in AEW. We have Tony Khan, and we have Christopher Daniels, and we have Matt Jackson, and we have Nick Jackson. Kenny Omega, right? Although, what was he stripped in storyline? I don't remember if he was stripped of his EVP powers or not. He wasn't. So Kenny Omega still has his EVP powers when he eventually comes back. I don't know that anybody wants to see him come in and actually wrestle. I mean, fuck if I know why anybody would want that. So I haven't seen too many people saying, oh, I can't wait to see Shane McMahon come in and wrestle Okada. I can't wait to see Shane McMahon come in and wrestle Will Ospreay, which, hey, it's Will Ospreay. If anybody could carry Shane McMahon to a great match in 2024 or 2025, it's Will Ospreay. But I don't know anybody who would want to see that. I mean, the last few times we saw Shane McMahon in the ring, he was sucking so much wind. I'm stunned that the first 5 rows, all the fans in the first 5 rows did not collapse from oxygen deprivation, okay? Nobody needs to see that. This is not the same Shane McMahon who was doing all these incredible moves that you didn't expect him to do and all these wacky stunts, and it was kind of fun to watch Shane in the ring, right? Dude, we're going back 20 years, 15 years, 10 years. Those are days gone by. That's a long time ago. It's not the same person. It's not the same performer. He's not that guy anymore. I mean, this is the same guy who did a leapfrog at WrestleMania 39 and blew out his quad. It's not the same Shane McMahon in the ring that people lovingly look back on here. And frankly, if Shane was to come back and he was going to do crazy stunts again, Tony Khan already has Darby Allin under contract. Just take a look at the main event tonight on Dynamite and some of the fucking stunts that he was doing. He's already got Darby Allin. And guess what? I guarantee you what he's paying Darby Allin is a fraction of what he would be paying Shane McMahon if he signed him to a contract to bring him in as an on-air performer in AEW. So if that's the idea here, he certainly does not need Shane McMahon. I'm not even one of these people who holds it against Shane that Vince McMahon is his father. And all the horrible shit that Vince has done and been accused of and all that, I'm not going to hold the son responsible for the sins of the father in this case. Okay, I don't know what he knew or didn't know about his father's extracurricular activities at the office. Again, he has not been in an executive position in that company, certainly not in a very long time. They brought him back as a performer. He was gone from the company for many years. Stephanie was legitimately an executive in this company, not Shane. So what he knew or did not know, I don't know. I have no reason to believe he was aware of any of the salacious shit that may have been going on in the last 6 or 7 years. I'm not even looking at it from that perspective. I know some people are. Why would you want to bring somebody like that in? You call WWE, if you're Tony Khan, the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling. Obviously, he was referring to Vince and Johnny and the culture in the company there. And that's a valid point to make, by the way, because Tony Khan has made comments recently about being open to having a working relationship with WWE, and yet he's going out there in interviews and calling them the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling. He's trying to have his cake and eat it too, and it doesn't work that way. You either want to work with this company or you don't. And if you have a really good reason like that for not wanting to work with them and you're going to mock them for being the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling, it's not a good look to then turn around and be like, oh yeah, I'd be open to having a working relationship with WWE. I don't know if it would work, but sure, I'd be open to it. So when he makes comments like that, again, it always comes back around. So you got to be careful when you make comments like that. But when it comes to Shane, I'm not even worried about that. Let's say he joins the company. Right now, this is just an introductory meeting. This may go nowhere, but let's just say that Shane McMahon actually joins AEW. After the initial buzz wears off, give it 3 weeks. It will wear off. It always does. When that buzz wears off, and there's no discernible change to the AEW product or the numbers or anything like that, what happens next? All this excitement to bring in Shane McMahon and that this could be just what the company needs, I'm just struggling to understand the why here. Other than the fact that, well, it would get them a lot of attention and maybe mainstream media attention because a McMahon joins the company. By the way, I think the people who are saying these things, I think you severely overestimate the amount of media attention that it would get the company to where it would, benefit them in any meaningful way. It would certainly in the initial week or two, but beyond that, I don't really think it would be much of a net gain for them. But who are these people that are advocating for Shane McMahon to have some sort of creative role behind the scenes? Because I've seen that talked about too. What evidence is there that Shane McMahon was some sort of creative guru or creative genius during his time in WWE? You hear stories about some of the business ideas that he has had over the years. And these ideas go back many years. Well, I mean, you could take Raw Underground, I guess, and put that on the side. But you hear people talk about the fact that, well, he pushed Vince McMahon to buy UFC. And that is a true story. Dana White has confirmed that. This, like over 20 years ago, Shane tried to convince Vince to buy the UFC with the idea that he would run it. And Vince said, probably in so many words, leave me the fuck alone, you little brat. Okay, he said no. He said no. And so that didn't happen. And if that would have happened, I mean, who knows, right? Who knows where UFC would be today? Maybe, who knows how Shane McMahon would have run the UFC? He may have run it right into the ground, right? UFC is huge today. So who knows? That's one of those what-if questions, how that would have turned out. And then there were other stories about him and the ideas he had to take the ECW brand and run it as a streaming-only property, before the days of real streaming. So from a business perspective, he may have had a couple of interesting ideas over the years. But when you hear people criticize AEW, and you hear people criticize Tony Khan, the vast majority of the criticism that he gets is for his creative ideas, or his lack of ideas for certain people, and the stories and the way he books the shows, right? That's really the bulk of the criticism that Tony Khan gets. And if you are of the belief that it's the creative and it's the stories, or the lack of stories, lack of good stories, that's why people are tuning out of the show in droves year over year, and they don't have the same audience they had a year ago or 2 years ago. It's chasing people away. They're not able to retain viewers, or if they bring new ones in, they don't keep them. We're talking creative here. And there's no evidence or indication that Shane McMahon is going to be brought into AEW and, well, he should just give him a creative role or surrender creative to Shane McMahon. He's an unknown commodity in that respect. The only thing about him is he's got the name McMahon. He was born into the wrestling business, so he's got wrestling in his blood, even though he was away from it for like 9 years or 7 years or whatever it was. But again, where is this coming from? This idea that this is exactly what Tony Khan needs. This is what can turn around his fortunes with this company. Shane McMahon could help him in that regard. I look at Shane McMahon as, no different than anyone else that people have talked about. Tony Khan should bring this guy in or that guy in or this person in and have them help him run the show. At least a lot of those people have experience doing that. When people mention Scott D'Amore, for example, at least he has experience and some success when it comes to that sort of thing. But again, I just don't understand. I'm waiting for someone to explain to me exactly what it is that Shane McMahon can bring to the table creatively. If that was a role, let's say, that he was to be brought in for, that would, benefit AEW. If he wants to, if he wants to sign Shane McMahon, you know what you could do? If Tony Khan wants to bring in Shane McMahon, you've got a brand that Tony Khan spent a lot of money on. And I've been talking a lot about this brand over the last couple of weeks. This brand just had a pay-per-view last Friday. It's called Ring of Honor. And we're talking about how Tony Khan should have somebody else take over Ring of Honor and run Ring of Honor creatively and kind of take that off of his plate. He should outsource that to somebody else and let them run it. Maybe that could be a nice little playground for Shane McMahon. Why not? Why not? Tony Khan admitted that Ring of Honor has come up in these discussions with Warner Brothers Discovery. It's not that far-fetched to expect that when they sign this next rights deal, ROH could end up on a Warner Brothers Discovery channel. It might not be TNT or TBS, but they could actually end up with an actual TV show and not just something on Honor Club. Especially if that's the case. If they get visibility on TV, you know what? Give it to Shane. Give it to Shane. And then we can see what he can do. Give him a decent roster and say, here you go. Show me what you can do. Maybe Shane McMahon can, he can get his feet wet running and booking and writing for Ring of Honor. Give him his own little creative team. He can make it his own little playground, his own little sandbox. Maybe he can make something out of Ring of Honor beyond what Tony Khan is doing with it right now. Maybe he'll have a different vision for it. That could be something to do. But, again, I imagine that what we are looking at here, and I think what's going on here, is you have a lot of people who are letting their imaginations run wild. And that's fine. In wrestling fans, they do that all the time. Even going into SummerSlam this weekend, people are letting their imaginations run wild with, Roman Reigns coming back, and here's how it's going to go down, and is Dominic going to turn on Rhea, right? I mean, it's what we do. It's what wrestling fans do. It's fun. It's fun to fantasy book and try to predict and prognosticate about what could happen, or if this person came in, how might they be used, right? And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do think that there are a lot of people here who are letting their imaginations run wild and speculating and fantasy booking I don't have any interest in seeing Shane McMahon back, for example, in WWE. If we were talking WWE right now, I do not want to see Shane McMahon back on TV. I feel the same way when it comes to AEW. Just because the initials are different and the setting is different and the players might be different, we're not talking about some kind of world-class free agent wrestler here who could benefit from getting a change in scenery, or, it's going to be really exciting now to see this person, instead of them being in WWE and working in that system and working with that roster, I want to see them working in AEW and all the people they'll be able to work with now, right? We're not talking about that. We're not talking about that. Just because the initials change doesn't mean that all of a sudden, I love to see Shane McMahon on TV. No, and I have nothing against him personally. It's not a personal thing. But I am no more excited by this than I would be if news broke that he was going to be coming back to WWE. I'm consistent in that. And behind the scenes, this idea that he's going to help turn things around. And first of all, what does that mean? When you say turn things around, what does that mean? Are you talking ratings? Are you talking creative? Because I've already talked about creative. I'm still waiting on an answer on that. What does that mean? What is Shane going to do that's going to turn things around for AEW? Nobody has really been able to articulate this for me in a way that makes any sense. So this is people grasping at straws. It's the equivalent of throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. It's basically what this is. All these people talking about the problems that AEW has, I don't want to hear these same people advocating for Shane McMahon to come into AEW like he's some kind of magic elixir that they can just slurp up that's going to turn all of their problems around and save the day, and it's going to be a brand new AEW. Oh, it'll be a brand new AEW potentially, but it may not be the AEW that a lot of these people are hoping for and expecting. And I'll leave it at that. We had a Dynamite show tonight with Bryan Danielson. He had something to get off his chest, as I did just now. He came out to address the crowd, and what ended up happening is he laid down a challenge to the AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland. Now, we already know they're in the main event at Wembley Stadium next month, but he upped the ante a lot here in this match. Even though we know his career is winding down full time, he took it to another level. And he said that if I lose to you and I cannot win the AEW World Heavyweight Championship, my career is over. And not just over full time, over for good. He will retire from the ring. So now it is career against title at Wembley Stadium. And I've got some thoughts on this because I have talked about this type of stipulation being added to matches before, and generally do not like it because it tends to give things away. So we're going to get into that and what this could mean. What this could potentially mean for the finish of the main event at Wembley Stadium. And for the first time ever in an AEW ring, you would think that they would have made a bigger deal about this. We had Hangman Adam Page one-on-one with Darby Allin, and they had a very good main event, but AEW really didn't make much of a big deal about it. They didn't even really talk about it much during the show. But it took place tonight, and it was a main event that I enjoyed. I actually thought it was a good show. It was not their best show that they've done recently, but I thought it was a good show that had some good segments and some good matches, and it built nicely to Allin. And there were some, things that happened on the show tonight, namely, Bryan laying down that stipulation, but also some promo segments and things that I enjoyed that I thought got me interested for Wembley and interested for some of the other things that are coming up. And they've already set up a bunch of matches for next week's show, which is never a bad thing. When you can set up multiple matches for next week's show 7 days in advance, I actually like that and think that's a good thing. So we're going to get into the entire show here. This is your AEW Dynamite review for Wednesday, July 31st, 2024. I am the Solomonster. This is our final stream for the month of July. I want to have a big stream, so Hit that like button if you have not already done so. If we get enough likes tonight, I'm not even going to tell you what the number is. You know what the number is. We'll do our Be the Booker segment later on, so go ahead and do that. Super chats are open as well. You'll see them popping up shortly when I unpause them. There you go.
I'm the learning tree.
There you go.
Thanks, guys.
I needed to say my piece uninterrupted. I feel better now. So go ahead and drop a super chat if you would like to. I will read your messages as we get towards the end of the stream. Dynamite tonight opened with MJF coming out to the ring with his new American Championship that he unveiled on the show last week to replace the international title, which he dropped in the garbage can. Will Ospreay fished it out of the garbage can and brought it backstage. So the international title is in good hands right now. The international title is not gone. The American Championship is a temporary thing, but I said last week, it's a good-looking belt, I will say. I actually like the look of that belt more, I think more than the international title. I tell you what, I'll take it one step further. I think that the American Championship...
I'm the learning tree.
Yeah, Corey. Thank you, Corey.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Corey. I actually think that the American Championship that MJF is carrying around looks better than the United States title on WWE television. I wish this was the United States title. You can kind of see it there on the screen in the art, but that's a good-looking belt. So MJF said that he single-handedly defeated the redcoat terrorist Will Ospreay with ease and brought gold back to our great nation. Now he would walk into enemy territory on August 25th at Allin in London and beat Ospreay again. So Ospreay's music played. He rushed the ring. MJF was able to escape out onto the stage. Ospreay said that MJF should keep running after what he said about his family last week. He said no one is acknowledging MJF's title after he threw the international title in the garbage can. He praised some of the former holders of the title like Pac, Orange Cassidy, Jon Moxley, Rey Fenix, and Roderick Strong, and said that they would all put it on the line for the people. He got hit with the chants of USA, and Ospreay says, I get it, but MJF does not represent the American spirit or work ethic. So I thought he played off of that very well. He said that he will restore honor to the international title. MJF said that he will annihilate Ospreay in front of his countrymen, and said that he didn't think Ospreay would make it to Wembley because everybody dies. And that was the cue to bring out Lance Archer, who is the scheduled opponent tonight for Will Ospreay. So a basic promo. Nothing really special about it, but nothing wrong with it either. Nothing of any real note was said in that promo. But Ospreay's still coming out there, a house of fire, looking to get his hands on MJF, who keeps slipping away. He's very slippery. He's like Slippery Pete. So, they're keeping them apart for the time being. I don't know if they'll be able to keep them apart for another month until we get to Wembley, but so far so good. So we had Will Ospreay against Lance Archer, who Tony Khan, he dusts him off every now and then when he needs him. He'll it's like picking up the bat phone. Hey Lance, we need you. I just picture Lance Archer. He comes to these shows every single week. He's kicking back in the locker room. He's got his feet up on the table. Maybe he's got some glasses on. I don't know if he wears glasses or not. Got a pipe in his mouth. He's reading the newspaper. He's reading the fucking Wall Street Journal. Tony pops his head in the room. Hey, Lance, we need you. Jake's over there. I don't know. Jake's doing whatever Jake's doing, playing cards with somebody. Hey, Lance, we need you for a match. He's like, oh, fuck, here we go. All right. Who is it tonight? Well, tonight it was Will Ospreay. So another good match with Lance Archer. He's had a few of these. And so now he's hit his quota, which means we won't see him again on Dynamite for another 6 months. The high point had Archer wanting an avalanche chokeslam. They were both on the very top rope. Ospreay countered, though, into a Spanish fly all the way off the top. And then he hit an os cutter. Only got 2. Ospreay wanted the hidden blade. He got turned inside out, though, with a huge lariat. Archer went for his blackout finish. Ospreay spun out into a DDT. Followed that with a diving hidden blade that caught him really on the side of the head. Archer, though, kicked out at 1, flipped him off. So Ospreay dropped the elbow pad and then hit a proper Hidden Blade for the win. MJF attacked right after the bell with a brainbuster before placing the Dynamite Diamond Ring on his finger. That brought out Kyle Fletcher, who ran out and ran MJF off. He bailed up the ramp. Don Callis was in the ring with Fletcher. And he said that, look, I know that Callis told him not to get involved with Will Ospreay ever since he left the Callis family, but he is his best friend, and he is my brother, he said. Fletcher called MJF a narcissistic asshole and said that he is MJF's karma coming to bite him in the ass. He said MJF doesn't give a damn about America, but he heard what he said about foreign wrestlers last week, and Fletcher said that he dreamed of wrestling in America, and he is forever grateful to the U.S. for giving him his dream girl, which reminds me, best wishes to Sky Blue, who had surgery to repair a broken ankle. So she's going to be gone for a long time. So hopefully she heals up quickly. His dream car and his dream life is what the U.S. gave him. And he speaks for everyone in Australia, in the United Kingdom, and every single person in this building here tonight when he says that he is sick of MJF's bullcrap. Fletcher called MJF to the ring. MJF then acted like, you want me? And he took off his shirt, looked like he was ready to come down to the ring. And then, of course, MJF said, no, he's not coming down to the ring. He said, wannabe Will Ospreay doesn't call the shots. I do. No one punches an American hero in the face and gets away with it. So he will wrestle Kyle Fletcher on Dynamite next Wednesday, and says that if Fletcher thought Allin was bad last year, which is when MJF and Cole wrestled Aussie Open on the pre-show, he's going to kangaroo kick his face off and leave him in a pool of his own blood, just like Daniel Garcia. Ospreay will be the one to blame when MJF dismantles his boy, and Callis just looked noticeably annoyed at Ospreay, but he did end up shaking hands with him at the end of this. So that story is not over. And I've said this before. That story is not over yet, even though Callis led him out of the family. It's like nobody leaves the family after they join the family. Like, that's not the way it works, right? Once you're part of the family, you're always in the family. So the idea that Don Callis, being the slime ball that he is just going to allow Will Ospreay to leave, and that's it. There's no penalty. There's no consequence. That seems very unlikely. I mean, for all we know, look, it's always possible that Kyle Fletcher could go heel, and that could be, the doing of Don Callis, right? Stick the knife right to Will Ospreay, have his brother, his best friend, turn on him. It's always possible. But this was the best promo I have ever seen out of Kyle Fletcher. He was focused. He was fiery in his delivery. And I thought that it was just a very good spot for him to be in tonight. Ospreay, you could see him. He was just sitting in the corner, and he was almost like, he was just sitting looking up at Kyle as he was cutting the promo, and almost like he was very proud of his boy. They've done a good job, I think, so far. It's only been a few weeks, but they've done a good job so far of building the rematch for Wembley. That mention of Daniel Garcia, I should mention this. Daniel Garcia, for those who don't know, and I was not aware of this up until about a week or two ago, when they shot the angle with him and MJF, when MJF bloodied him and turned heel and beat the crap out of him after he had his international title match, Garcia did with Will Ospreay. His contract is either coming due or is up. And there is some question about whether or not he is going to renew and stay with AEW. So what they have done here is they took a very real situation where Daniel Garcia could very well leave AEW. And they used it to their advantage by saying, okay, well, we don't know for sure. We think he's going to be back. And the belief is that he is going to stick around in AEW, but they don't know that for sure. If he doesn't and he chooses to leave, well, we were able to use him on the way out, not unlike the way WWE used Ricochet to help get over Braun Breaker when Braun killed him in the parking lot. They had MJF really get vicious, like a vicious, savage beatdown of this kid, and he bloodied him, and it really gave an impetus for Will Ospreay to want to go after MJF because, Will Ospreay liked Daniel Garcia and respected this kid and gave him a shot at the international title and, came out to try to save him even though it was too late. So they were able to weave it into the story in a smart way and help get MJF that much more over as a heel. If he doesn't come back, he doesn't come back. But if he does come back, he's got a ready-made match and a ready-made feud waiting for him with MJF. And if they want to really push him to that next level, he could come back and feud with MJF and actually beat him. Right? That would certainly be one way to try to get this kid over, is to have him go in there. He would get the biggest win of his entire career if he was to go in there and beat MJF. Which I know some people are going to laugh at, and they don't like that idea because they don't think Daniel Garcia is ever going to get over at that level. But I don't fault Tony Khan for trying if that's what he wants to do. So that's kind of the situation with Daniel Garcia. I thought that we would see him back in time to wrestle MJF in Chicago at All Out. That could still happen. But apparently, he is considering his options. And it is not a foregone conclusion that he is going to stay. If I had to venture a guess right now, I would say he's not going anywhere. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. We got a recap of Minoru Suzuki breaking Chris Jericho's finger in their FTW title match, their Chop Fest last week, and Katsuyori Shibata returning. In the back, we had Big Bill. Had a cake to celebrate Jericho's record 102 days as the FTW champion. Jericho says that in wrestling, the cake always goes into someone's face, but that is not going to happen tonight, which it didn't, shockingly. He calls out Shibata for being alone all by himself now that there is no Samoa Joe and there is no Hook. We have not seen Hook since the fireball to the face.
I am the learning tree.
I wish I could throw one right now.
Thanks, guys.
The Juliet sitting under the learning tree tonight. Thank you, Juliet. So he called out Shibata and said that the bad apple, Brian Keith, is going to take him out on the show next week. Thankfully, that was all we got from the learning tree tonight. Until now. Now we get all of our learning trees here on this stream. Hey, Kevin Hale, just subscribe. Joe Hendry is very excited about this. Don't forget that new Joe Hendry super chat is below as well. Welcome, Kevin. We had Kris Statlander, one-on-one with Willow Nightingale, the CMLL Women's World Champion. This was a CMLL title eliminator match.
It's the amazing Gunther.
Oh, look who it is.
Jerry Lawler loves Gunther, the magnificent.
It's our boy Gunther.
All hail Gunther.
It's our boy Gunther. Didn't know if we would see him.
The learning tree.
Why does he always sabotage Gunther?
Thanks, guys.
Jericho has sabotaged Gunther 3 different times in the last few weeks. But Drew Johnson with the $50 super chat. Hey, Drew, what's going on, man? I haven't heard from Drew in a while. Thank you, Drew. I'm going to read your message here in a little bit. Don't go nowhere. We got to talk about this CMLL eliminator match here. Gunther is very excited for SummerSlam on Saturday. He's very excited that the ring general, Gunther, is going to walk out with the World Heavyweight Championship. I'll be very disappointed if we don't see Gunther's face at least once on the stream on Saturday night. So anyway, this match came about after Statlander attacked Willow in the back last week and then challenged her to an eliminator match. Now, normally in wrestling, if you beat the crap out of somebody and then you challenge them to a championship match. But not here in AEW. Here she challenged her to an eliminator match. She's a stickler for the rules, apparently. So Statlander attacked before the bell, hit a top rope drop kick, then they rang the bell to signify the beginning of the match. Statlander hit a 450 splash later in the match, got a close near fall. And when I say close, I mean Willow did not get her shoulder up in time, and so Aubrey Edwards had to hold up on the 3 count. And even the announcer said, "Oh, I thought she had it." And the fans Fans thought she had it, but evidently not. Oh, she had her all right. But Aubrey had to hold up just a little bit. Stokely Hathaway passed Statlander a chain before distracting Aubrey. Statlander wrapped the chain around her fist, hit a discus lariat, and then pinned Willow to earn a future shot at the CMLL women's title. After the match, Hathaway gave Statlander a chair. She wore out Willow with the chair across the back a few times. Security intervened, and then Statlander took out security one by one. She started to beat them up and knocked each one of them down. She went to go attack Willow some more, and Hathaway pulled her off. You know, these two had a good match on the pre-show last year on Long Island when they had World's End. It was marred by the finish. Things, if you remember that match they had, things fell apart in the last couple of minutes of that match. Otherwise, it was a good match. This was better than that one. And now I expect their next match to be the best of them all. They did not specifically say that the rematch for the title would take place at Wembley Stadium, but that would be the most appropriate place for it. So I expect that it will happen there. I hope it will happen there. And if it does happen there, that's 3 big women's matches on that show. That would be a CMLL women's world title match. And I don't even care so much about the CMLL women's title being on the line. I just think that these two, they've been feuding now for a little bit, former best friends, now enemies. I like both of them. And just getting them in the ring on a big show like that would be great. And then we have the TBS title match and we have the women's world title match, which I am looking forward to the most out of all of these potential women's matches. So we could have 3 really strong women's championship matches at All In this year. But again, this was better than their first match. Very physical style because they both work as powerhouses. They work that kind of style. And so I enjoyed this. Now we had Bryan Danielson, who had said that he had something to get off his chest. The winner of the Owen Hart tournament, #1 contender for the AEW World Heavyweight title at All In. He came down to the ring. He wanted to address the public. Now, before he even came out for this segment, they replayed the segment backstage from last week where Renee was interviewing him, and he was interrupted by Jeff Jarrett. Jarrett had overheard him talking about, I have the doctors say my neck, I don't know. And Jarrett came in and basically gave him a pep talk and said, it sounds to me like you're making excuses. I knew Owen Hart, and Owen Hart was my former tag team partner, and it meant the world to me to be a part of that tournament. And I couldn't win, but you did. And I don't want to see you go to Wembley and squander the opportunity that you won as a result of winning the Owen. He said, if you're going to go to All In, you've got to go all in, right? So that's what he told Bryan last week. And Bryan looked like he had this epiphany, and he told Renee he had to go do some thinking. So now that led to this here. In the ring, Bryan put over Greenville. They were in Greenville, South Carolina tonight. Said that normally people say that to get a cheap pop, but he and his wife actually got their engagement photos taken there. He said they have a beautiful downtown area, and that got chance of Bree. We got Bree chance here on the show. I was a little concerned here that we were about to enter Bree mode, but it never got that far, thank God. So he said he wanted to talk about 2 things. The money and the miles. I lapsed into a Kevin Nash shoot there. He wanted to talk about presents, not like Christmas presents, like presents and promises. He said he was forced to retire. He had it all taken away from him. But since he came back, he has been able to be present in everything that he does. People talk about the good old days and they reminisce about the good old days, right? But when you're in it, you don't really get to, and you hear a lot of wrestlers talk about that where, they wish they would have enjoyed it when they were in the middle of it. Now they look back on it and go, I didn't really enjoy it. It was a lot of stress, a lot of work. You're on the road. You're thinking about a lot of different things. So he says that ever since he came back, he has been able to be present and he has had fun and he has enjoyed himself. He said that this period that he has been signed to AEW, these past 3 years, he said have been the funnest of his entire career. Then he wants to talk about promises. He promised his daughter that when he turned, or when she turned 7, he would stop wrestling full time. He promised his family that his contract with AEW would be the last contract that he would ever sign. And that contract ends tomorrow. And everybody in the crowd reacted to that. It's like they gasped. But that is the belief, that his contract with AEW is up as of August 1st, 2024. Said that he promised himself that every time he stepped foot in the ring, he would give every single thing that he has. When he came to AEW, he said that he was going to do 2 things. He was going to kick people's heads in, and he was going to win the AEW World Championship. He's kicked a lot of people's heads in, but he has never won the AEW World Championship. Yet. He stuck that in there. He said, yet. This will be his last shot at AEW's biggest event of the year, and there are doctors telling him he shouldn't wrestle. He says his family doesn't want him to wrestle. But his promise is that he is going to Wembley Stadium and he will be present for that moment. He will give the fans 100% at All In with his body, his mind, and his soul. He will go all in. And with that, that brought out the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, Swerve Strickland. Swerve said he respects him. He respects his influence on a whole generation of talent, and if this was any other time, he would be rooting for Bryan to go in there and walk out the World Heavyweight Champion. But this is Swerve's time. When he came to AEW, Swerve said he was going to win the world title, and he did. Bryan's one of the greatest of this generation, but he, being Swerve, is one of a kind. Bryan came in here and said that he was going to win the title, and he was going to kick everyone's head in. He says, I guess you couldn't handle it when they started kicking back. He said, this is not an achievement award that you get after 25 years of service. It shows everyone that you are the best in the world, and he is the best in the world. You challenged Ospreay, and you had a classic, but you lost. And not only did you lose, but you got injured. You got hurt during the match. He said that you challenged the Elite at Anarchy in the Arena, and you got pinned. While I led Team AEW last week to victory in Blood and Guts. I like the contrast here between these two. Last year, he said he competed in front of 80,000 people at Wembley Stadium. He didn't mention that he lost that match, but we'll skip over that little point. But he said, last year I competed in front of 80,000 people at Wembley Stadium, while Bryan was too broken down to even get on the flight to London. Bryan can't handle the pressures of being a champion. He made him a promise that he is the most dangerous man in AEW. He also promised Bryan that he will not be walking out of All In as the champion. He said, hell, after he's done with him, he may never walk again. Swerve went to go leave before Bryan interrupted him, and he told him, I've got one more promise. And this right here, this was the key point and the money line here in this promo. He promised that if he does not win the AEW World Championship, he will never wrestle again. He said Swerve's title versus Bryan's career at All In. What do you say? So Swerve, Bryan had stuck his hand out for a handshake, and Swerve shook it. He said he's very noble of Bryan to say that. He said, don't keep that promise with me. He told him, keep it with your family. Now, after this promo was over, Bryan was in the back. He ran into Jeff Jarrett and his crew, which was Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt and Karen Jarrett. And they were all applauding him. They were all very happy. And Jarrett said, that's what I'm talking about. That's what you do and you go all in. And Bryan cut him off and said, you want to see All In? Says, meet me next week on Dynamite and I'll show you All In. And he walked off. And Jay Lethal's like, wait, what? No, what are you talking about? So much for Bryan not wrestling between now and Wembley. I could have sworn that the belief was, or he maybe said, that he was not going to be wrestling between now and All In. And I said, well, that's a great idea because it's Bryan that we're talking about here. He could easily get hurt. And so short of wrapping him in bubble wrap, the best thing you could do is keep him out of the ring. And now he's in a fucking match next week. So Jeff Jarrett is going to get his head kicked the fuck in on Dynamite next week. Well, look, they may as well go ahead and get the custom side plates ready for the championship. The custom yes side plates. Because Daniel Bryan is, or Bryan Danielson, I sound like Jim Ross now. Bryan Danielson is going to win the AEW World Championship in London, England. That's what I got out of this segment here. And I really despise when they give finishes away with the career stipulation. Here in this case, it's at least plausible that maybe he does lose. Maybe he does lose, and maybe all of this talk about him, I'm just going to retire full time. I'm still going to work matches though. Maybe it's all just to throw us off. Maybe this was the plan all along, right? You have to at least leave open the possibility that maybe he's being honest and maybe he's being truthful here. I don't think he is. I think he absolutely is going to continue to wrestle, when he feels like it. But, at least in this case, they have, in storyline, he keeps hammering home the idea that my doctors don't want me to wrestle. Even tonight, my family doesn't want me to wrestle. My doctors don't want me to wrestle. And so in the eyes of the fans who are watching the show who don't know from any of this other stuff, you may be likely to think that maybe he really is going to retire. This could very well be, big stadium show in the main event. This could very well turn out to be his final match. But again, he has made it very clear in the past, and I do believe that when he says this, he means it, that he will never retire. He has flat out said, I'm never going to retire. I'm always going to, when there's a match I want to do, whether it's, here in Mexico on the independent scene, right? I could just pop up and work with whoever I want to work with. No wrestler ever truly retires unless they have drawn the final breath from their body. There is no such thing as a real retirement in wrestling. I thought Steve Austin was the closest thing to it, and then 19 years later, he fucking came back and he wrestled in the main event of WrestleMania, which just goes to, and Shawn Michaels came back 8 years later, so it just goes to show you, nobody ever truly retires in wrestling, and Bryan Danielson is not going to be one of the exceptions to that rule. And if he's not retiring, then that means he's winning. Because I don't really think he wants to say that on TV and then end up going back on that stipulation. So, yes, I do believe that Bryan is going to win the title. And look, it's going to make for a nice moment, right? I'm not hating on the fact that he's going to get a special moment here in Wembley Stadium, right? It'll probably be a great match, capped off by a great celebration. Darby Allin is the number one contender post All-In for the AEW World title. He is getting a championship match on the Grand Slam show by virtue of his Royal Rampage win last Friday. Stipulation this year was that the winner gets a World Championship match at Grand Slam. We have seen Swerve Strickland and Darby Allin many times. It's not a fresh match. Bryan Danielson and Darby Allin have never wrestled before. I mean, that really is a clash of styles between those two. And probably would be a great fucking match. So just by looking at that, if you look at them and say, okay, which one is more likely to end up being the champion at that time and defending against Darby, then I think the answer would probably be Bryan Danielson. And honestly, that's a match I wouldn't mind seeing. So there are a lot of reasons now that point to Danielson walking out of Wembley with that title. If it were me, would I beat Swerve on this show and take the title off of him? I would not. But there's an easy way to do it in such a way that does not do any harm to Swerve Strickland. If Swerve Strickland goes into the main event of Wembley Stadium in front of 50,000 people, the biggest AEW show of the entire year, he is in the main event. He is defending the world title against one of the greatest in-ring workers of all time, okay? In the history of the business. He will go down as one of the GOATs. Going in there and losing to Bryan Danielson does not hurt Swerve Strickland. It does not kill him. It does not bury him. It does not damage him in any significant way, provided that they follow up in the way that I would follow up. And the way that I would follow up is he wins the world title. He gets his big moment. He defends the title at Grand Slam. I don't even know if he would defend the title at all, frankly, at All Out. Okay, just because he's defending it at All In or winning it at All In doesn't mean there has to be a world title defense at All Out. Last year, I think they headlined with Jon Moxley and Orange Cassidy for the international title. So let's assume there will be no world title defense in Chicago. He goes in there at Grand Slam, and he defends the title against Darby Allin. The next pay-per-view is a week after Bad Blood, October 12th. They're going to be in Tacoma, Washington for Wrestle Dream. Bryan Danielson defends the World Championship in a rematch on that show against Swerve Strickland. Both of them are from the Pacific Northwest. So both of them are going to go in there in Tacoma, and they're both going to get great reactions. Swerve is actually from Tacoma, Washington. Danielson's from Aberdeen, but Swerve is from Tacoma. He's coming in there as the hometown guy. So if he gets the rematch and he goes in there in his hometown at Wrestle Dream and wins the belt back in a hard-fought contest against Bryan Danielson, and that match at Wrestle Dream is the end of Bryan's full-time career in wrestling, and he goes out full-time putting over Swerve Strickland in Tacoma, Swerve loses nothing. And it's a great moment for him, not just to get his belt back, but again, to do so in front of his family and friends in his hometown. If they do it that way, Swerve doesn't lose anything. And it all works out in the end. And I'm okay with that. So that's what I would do. If you're going to put the belt on Bryan, and I think that Tony Khan is going to want to do that, and certainly after tonight, it looks like it's all but guaranteed that we're going to get a title change, that's what I would do. And here's the thing about it, though, that even it works out perfectly if you think about it. We're all waiting for the Swerve and Hangman match, right? And I thought, well, okay, if it's not going to do it at Wembley, they could do it at All Out. Swerve retains it All In. He defends it All Out against Hangman Page. If Bryan wins the title and they do what I suggested and he drops it in Tacoma back to Swerve in October, the very next show is Full Gear. Full Gear this year is going to be the 1-year anniversary of the Texas Death Match between Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page. And so what a fitting place for them to finally come back together one-on-one, only this time it's for the World Championship, with Swerve defending against Hangman at Full Gear 1 year after the most violent match that I have ever seen in my life. The sickest, most violent match in any major promotion, certainly, that I have ever seen. The timing kind of works out. Now, if you want to see Hangman win the title, that's problematic, because you're not going to have Swerve lose the belt, put the belt back on him 2 months later, and then a month later take it back off of him again. I mean, I wouldn't do that. So Hangman may not end up getting the world title out of this, but I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued at the idea that maybe Hangman never beats Swerve. No matter how many times they wrestle, he cannot figure this guy out. He may go the rest of his career, and the one guy he simply cannot beat is Swerve Strickland. Swerve should probably just always beat him. It'll drive him absolutely nuts. But again, the timing of that for the Hangman rematch would actually work out perfectly coming out of Wrestle Dream. I should have expected it. I as soon as the words left my mouth, I should have expected it. Eminem dropping a Brie mode on me. Thank you for the $25 Brie mode super chat. Thank you, Eminem. Probably the most predictable super chat ever. After what I just talked about.
I am the learning
You know what?
tree.
I stand corrected. The second most predictable super chat.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. I stand corrected. We had the Ring of Honor World Champion, Mark Briscoe, teaming up with Orange Cassidy and Tomohiro Ishii to take on Roderick Strong, Roosh, and the Beast Mortos, who's a lot of fun to watch when I do get to see him. He is the former Black Taurus. He had to change his name when he left AAA. He's excellent, and he also picked up the biggest win of his AEW career tonight. We had a lot of fun action here in this match. It was, the typical AEW trios or multi-man match where it's just a million miles a minute, a bunch of big moves and dives. Roddy hit an angle slam on Ishii. Ishii spun out of the end of Heartache with a headbutt. Briscoe and Mortos both tagged in. Match broke down at that point, moves galore, until Roosh cut off a Jay Driller attempt, which allowed Mortos to hit a spinning sit-out pile driver, where he dropped Briscoe on his head, and then he pinned him to win the match for his team. So the Beast Mortos pinned the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion. And I say that out loud, and that should really feel like a big deal, but it doesn't. But he did pin the ROH World Champion, which I'm sure is going to set him up for an ROH title match, probably on Honor Club at some point. So big win for him, and fun match. We had the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. They were backstage, and they said that they are coming to Collision on Saturday, and they're going to be looking for FTR. But they are nowhere to be found. FTR are scared of the MVPs of Blood and Guts. Max Caster said that FTR are not serious, as they did not show up in their hometown to get their asses kicked by them. Anthony Bowen said that they are going to come to FTR on Saturday night, and it is time to nut up or shut up. You know, these two have a guaranteed tag team title match with the Young Bucks. Should they not be focusing on that and when they are going to get their title match and hounding the Bucks about that? It's like they want a shot at the tag team titles, and it's like just on the back burner. Probably killing time until Wembley. I would imagine it happens at Wembley. But it's like, shouldn't you be focusing on that? You know, I have to say this, and I said this on TNT last night. The tag team divisions right now in WWE and AEW are severely weak. It's really sad how the tag divisions in both companies have taken a nosedive in the last few months. And with AEW, I mean, we're talking about a tag team division that at one time, that was their crown jewel. They had the best tag team division in all of wrestling. You had the Bucks, and you had Private Party, and you had the Lucha Bros, and you had SCU, and you had, I mean, team after team after team. And then they would bring in new teams, and you had Aussie Open, and they had the Hardys, and the Hardys were going to get a run for the tag team titles until, you know, Jeff messed that all up. And then on and on and on. But they have had a very strong tag team division for a very long time. And it's not that they don't have any teams. It's just that tag division right now, as compared to the way it was before, it has been severely weakened. And I think the trio stuff has not helped. I think the trio stuff has worked against it. In WWE, it's not any better. They split the tag team titles at WrestleMania, and things have only gotten worse. Why would you do that? When you don't have enough teams to support a division on each show individually, you split the titles. That just never made any sense to me. But you had all these people, they got to split the titles, okay? And it was like, okay, great. They did. Now what? I mean, the SmackDown tag titles, they look great, but they don't have enough teams to sustain an interesting tag team division on the individual shows. In AEW, the Young Bucks won the tag team titles at Dynasty. That was in April. You know how many title defenses they've had since then? None. They're the Logan Paul of AEW. Only without the shitty drink. Instead of a drink, they have a sneaker. No tag team title defenses. It's almost August. Actually, what is it? It's 11:59 p.m., okay? In 10 seconds, it's going to be August 1st. And we have not had a tag team title defense since April. Okay? There's just no justification. And that's something you would not have seen in the old AEW at the beginning when they had that robust tag team division. So they gotta fix that. That's one of the areas they need to fix. Earlier in the day, Renee was sitting with Mariah May, who asked her, "What more do I have to explain about what I did?" It's very clear since day one. She wanted to be just like Toni Storm and gained her trust, only to slice her open and wear her skin, which, I mean, it's quite the visual there. Going a little Leatherface on us is Mariah May. Renee asked what Toni Storm did to her, and she said nothing. She gave Mariah everything that she wanted. Mariah was told that the business would eat her alive, and so she guessed that it was time for her to eat back. And she said that she's not answering any more questions, and Renee just got up and left. So they cut back to the arena live, and as the announcers are talking, timeless Toni Storm comes out on stage, crying and saying that Mariah, she loved her. She loved her, and Toni Storm loved her back. They said to find what you love and let it kill you at All In. It's going to be the romance of a bloody lifetime. And she held up her bloody shoe, the high heel shoe that she was obliterated with, and held up the AEW Women's World title, and then she stormed off. Because you see, her name is Toni Storm. Just saying. This was very quick. There wasn't much to it. I don't know if they were running low on time or what, but I am very much looking forward to the match at All In. I will say that. We had footage of Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker having to be separated on a panel at Comic-Con this past week. And we had Tony Khan making the TBS title match official for All In. So we had Kamille making her in-ring AEW debut here against Brittany Jade. The announcers talked about Kamille's size. Let me talk about this here. Talked about Kamille's size, because Kamille is like the China to her Triple H, the Diesel to her Shawn Michaels. China was big, right? She was muscular. She was bigger than the average woman you would see in WWE. Diesel was 7 feet tall. Oh, realistically 6'10", but we'll call it 7 feet. 7 feet tall, right? Much taller and bigger than Shawn Michaels was. Eventually, he got Sid as a bodyguard. Same thing. Sid, 6'8", much bigger than Shawn Michaels. So they're talking about Kamille's size. And it begs the question, why is Mercedes out there wearing these big-ass high heel shoes that make her look basically the same height, as tall as Kamille when she's out there? Does that not defeat the purpose of her having a bodyguard? You're not supposed to be the same size as the bodyguard. The bodyguard is supposed to tower over you. I mean, Kamille is not 6'3", but still, why is she out there wearing? She should be wearing flats. It's all about the impression. It's what you see. It's the perception of what you see on TV. Why is she out there looking the same size as Kamille? I don't know. So Kamille is in the ring. She's kicking ass. Mercedes is sitting on the steps outside during the match, admiring her new heater. This did not even go 90 seconds before Kamille hit a sit-out dominator for the win. This was the squash that it needed to be. Mercedes got in the ring after the match and told the fans to welcome the newest member of her Mone Corporation, the Brick House Kamille. It's like what did I tell you 2 months ago when I pitched the idea? I pitched it as, this woman calls herself the CEO. Every CEO needs an employee. So she found her employee, her first. Maybe her first of more, but we'll see. But she found her employee in Kamille. So Mercedes said that she's been victimized for weeks by Britt Baker, despite trying to be diplomatic, as Baker is obsessed with her. She said that Baker's actions at Comic-Con got her suspended by the EVPs. And she said that AEW is her house now, and she's going to turn this place into a mansion. Crowd was pretty dead for this promo, I will say. I have another question here. Could be a silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How is it that the EVPs can suspend Britt Baker and Tony Khan is powerless to do anything about it? I mean, they didn't say that Tony Khan suspended her, and Tony Khan was right there. Tony Khan evidently wasn't too bothered by it. He was in the middle of that whole situation because he's the one who made the match. He announced Britt Baker against Mercedes Moné for All In. Remember, he made that face too. You saw that screenshot of Tony Khan when he was on the panel. It was weird. Like, it was just this weird close-up shot of his face, and it was just weird. It's a weird guy. What can I say? But Tony Khan wasn't upset over what happened. Why can't he turn around and go, no, she's not suspended. She's unsuspended. This is what I have an issue with this storyline. It's the whole power dynamic here. If Tony Khan is the president of the company or the CEO of the company, and the Young Bucks are executive vice presidents, How is it that he cannot overrule executives that are beneath him in the hierarchy of this company? It's really never been explained. I don't expect it to ever be explained. And for the first time ever, we had Hangman Adam Page one-on-one with Darby Allin in an AEW ring. Page ran Darby into the barricade early on and then grabbed a chair. And Darby crawled up the entrance ramp to the stage. Hangman followed him, as did Bryce Remsburg. And Bryce was barking at Hangman. Hangman dropped the chair. Darby hit Page with a flipping stunner, so now he's down. And then Darby begins to climb the side of one of the entrance tunnels. And then he performed a coffin drop off the top of the entrance tunnel onto Hangman on the stage, which got a holy shit chant. After a break, they're wrestling, they're in the ring, and all of a sudden we had a blackout. The lights went out. Now, not all the lights in the arena went out, but the lights on the LED barricade, they were still on. You can see the DraftKings ad. But the lights in the actual arena went out, and the announcers were very confused, and I was very confused, and I'm sitting here waiting for the fog and the single piano note to begin. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for the Wyatts to come out. But then the lights came back on and the match went on like nothing happened. Now, I saw somebody make a joke earlier, I think in the chat. And they mentioned Beware of Dog. The Beware of Dog pay-per-view from 1996 when the lights went out. Because they had a really bad storm that night. The eerie thing about that is that the Beware of Dog show also took place in South Carolina, which is where they were tonight for this show. I think that was Florence. I want to say that was Florence, South Carolina. So that was a little eerie when I thought about that. Hangman repeatedly powerbombed Darby on the edge of the ring, followed that with a fucking fall-away slam onto the edge of the ring steps. And I don't mean like the flat top part of the ring steps. I mean the steps of the ring steps. He just did the Razor Ramon, what Razor Ramon, apparently Scott Hall used to call it the sack of shit. He did the sack of shit, and Darby goes flying right onto the edge of the steps. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, this man has lost his mind. And then I realized, I said, well, one must first have a mind to lose before you can say that. And Darby really never had a mind to lose in the first place. So that would not be an accurate statement. He's just a crazy motherfucker. That's really what he is. But it's okay. It's all right, though. Because Tony Khan said it's the safest company in the world. So it's all good. Darby beat the count back in the ring. Page controlled things through the entire commercial break. Things came back. We had an avalanche fall-away slam. Darby rolled to the apron again. Page looked to the steps outside. He had moved the steps over. And he wanted another fall-away slam. But Darby escaped. And he swept Page's legs out onto the steps. So now, as Hangman is on the steps, he's outside the ring, and he is sitting up. Darby is in the ring, and he goes for one of his suicide dives, and connected with it, went flying through the ropes. He took his belt off. He started whipping the hell out of Hangman with his belt, hit a code red, got a 2 count. Darby tried for a buckshot lariat. He did the buckshot. But when he buckshotted his way in, he got turned inside out on a lariat by Hangman, who got a near fall of his own. So Page hit the Deadeye, only to hold on and hit a second Deadeye. Page kept staring daggers through Darby the entire time. The announcers called it the look of a man who was not well. I said the same thing when I saw Tony Khan make that face at Comic-Con. Had the look of a man who was not well. He needs sleep. They said Hangman kept looking to the kids in the crowd and that maybe it reminds him of what Swerve put his family through. Page wanted a buckshot. Darby collapsed. Page took too long to follow up and pull Darby up, and so Darby cradled him and got the flash pin to win the match. And Page, at that point, he flipped out. He started throwing chairs into the ring. Darby had already escaped the ring. He's on the ramp. He flips him the double bird, and that's how the show closed. I thought they had a very fun main event, hell of a main event here. Darby, of course, took his usual crazy bumps. Hangman continues to play the crazy man, and this is, I think, likely not going to be the last time we see these two in the ring together in the near future. But Hangman just right now, he's got that character down to a science where it just feels like, I mean, you talk about a short fuse, you talk about a combustible situation. It just feels like this guy could just snap at any moment and go backstage and just murder everybody, like Wyatt Six style. Just go backstage and murder everybody in the locker room. He comes out, he's got that scowl on his face, he's got the new music. I'm loving the new Hangman character. So we'll see if Darby ends up being destroyed for what happened tonight. I enjoyed the show. I did. I enjoyed the show. I thought that MJF and the Will Ospreay stuff was good, especially the Kyle Fletcher promo. Kris Statlander and Willow Nightingale had a good match with the right outcome. Statlander should have won that match. The Danielson promo was good, even though I think they gave the finish away for Wembley. But I thought it was a strong promo. Kamille got her squash debut in the ring. And we had the main event, which was a lot of fun. And I like that they've already set up 3 matches for Dynamite next week. We have MJF taking on Kyle Fletcher. We have Brian Keith taking on Katsuyori Shibata. And we have Bryan Danielson taking on Jeff Jarrett. So those matches are already official for next Wednesday. There was no Twitter poll, but there is a poll that is active right now for those of you in the live chat. And we have over 600 votes in. What did you think of Dynamite? And right now it is 70% thumbs up, 30% thumbs down. So if you are in the live chat right now, all you got to do is hit thumbs up or thumbs down. Let your voice be heard here and let me know what you thought of the show tonight. Did you like Dynamite? Yay or nay? It really is just that simple. It really is just that simple. Thank you for the likes, by the way. We are currently sitting at 401. I love that. We are at 401 likes. Row Roman Reigns gently down the stream. And we're rowing our way down the stream. Row Roman Reigns gently down the stream. Hey, Alex, thank you for the $22.
I'm the learning tree.
Row Roman Reigns.
Thanks, guys.
And Uthman Entertainment, thank you for the $12. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. It is, by the way, officially August 1st, and you know what that means. It is officially August 1st Warning Day. It is Tito Ortiz in TNA Day. Let us never forget the August 1st warning. I know I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the look on everybody's face at ringside when he came out. They didn't know what the hell was going on. Let us begin here with Joseph Brooks, who dropped a $9.99 super chat. Said, gold, silver, bronze on these moments. Yes, so for those who don't know, I should probably just mention this here. In the spirit of the Olympics, I did say on the podcast this week that... it disappeared. Where'd it go? But I did say on the podcast this week that in lieu of buy or sell, what we would do is gold, silver, and bronze. And you could submit a buy or sell that way. Where did Joseph's go? Let me go back to the beginning. Here we go. Gold, silver, bronze on these moments during Mark Henry's Hall of Pain run. His world title win, him slamming Sheamus through the barricade, and him slamming Big Show through a cage. You know, I don't remember him slamming Sheamus through a barricade. The Big Show cage thing I do remember, but you got to go the world title win over Randy Orton. You got to give that the gold. And I'll give the cage spot the silver, and I'll give the Sheamus spot the bronze, just because I honestly have no memory of it. I don't know what barricade spot you're talking about. Oz and Glorious with the $12 super chat. It's been 5 years of the exact same Darby crash test dummy ragdoll match. And the same exact MJF chicken shit heel promos paired with the stupid ring to win. How does Tony Khan not get sick of it? Thanks, guy. Well, then I guess Shane McMahon is the answer to all their questions. Let's bring in Shane McMahon. Apparently he is the solution that everybody is talking about here. I'm sure he'll turn things right around. The Winston slip. Shane against Test, SummerSlam 99, or Shane against Angle, King of the Ring 2001. I really like the Shane and Test match in 99, the Love Her or Leave Her match with the Stephanie storyline. I mean, the match with Angle was brutal. It was a better match. But I like the Shane and Test match. So I'm going to go with Shane and Kurt. But Shane and Test is a really good match if you've never seen it. Oz and Glorious says 38 months. Acknowledge me and hit that like button. You are acknowledged. Oz and Glorious. Holy shit, 38 months. Look at that. Jerome Eugenio, do you think Darby Allin can win the AEW title this year? Not this year. He will win the title, but it will not be this year. Corey J. Barnett with the 12. I'm a big fan since 2009. Do you ever see a day where you retire from doing the show? Are you people trying to like kick me out here? This is like the third question I've gotten in the last 2 weeks about like, am I going to quit the show? Am I going to retire? When do I see the end? I think you people are trying to send me a message here. I mean, I can leave if you want me to. I mean, my goodness. Yes, there will come a day where I will not be doing this anymore. So I hope that answers your question. We've got our friend is back. All this dick and balls says Rick Knox should be the next WWE champion. Very good. Superman Bassfisher. Shane don't want to wrestle. Shane is a good writer. Shane has good ideas. It was Vince that pushed Shane, not Shane. How do you know this? How do you know that Shane is a good writer? Again, this is what I mean. Like, people say these things, but like, what evidence is there of this? This is the first I'm hearing of this. He's a great writer. He's got great ideas. Who says? What ideas have ever been attributed to him creatively on WWE television that you would look at and go, holy shit, that's a great idea? Who came up with that? This is people, I feel like, just manufacturing this narrative in their head. Like, he may have some great ideas and he may have some fucking terrible ideas, but we just don't know. We don't know which way he would fall on that. I just don't understand. I don't get it. I don't know where this is coming from. Oz and Glorious. Shane as GM for Ring of Honor plus a WWE insider equals value for Tony Khan. How about I flip this back to you another way? You bring in somebody like Shane McMahon, how do you know he's not funneling information to people in the company? Obviously, he's got friends in the company, got family in the company. It goes both ways. I'm not saying that you should never sign Shane just for that reason, but that would have to be a concern. I would hope that Tony would put something in writing to protect against that sort of thing, but it cuts both ways. But it's what I said before. I said if he wanted to bring in Shane McMahon in a non-wrestling role, but in some sort of behind-the-scenes position, give him Ring of Honor. Let him take Ring of Honor and say, okay, you want to help me out here? You want to book the territory? I bought this company. It has a roster. We have a few pay-per-views each year. We may be getting a television show soon for it. And you know what? It could use a familiar face on TV to kind of get it going. I'll give you Ring of Honor. Show me what you can do. Then maybe there could be some value in it. But that's not what I see all these people talking about. They're talking about Shane and AEW. They're not talking about Shane and Ring of Honor. Maybe that's what they should be talking about. Jazz Jackrabbit. Jericho and Shane together. The money tree. Puke. Yeah, I'll be right next to you puking. The Juliet with the $12 super chat says Joe Hendry is working out full-time at the PC while under contract with TNA. WWE must really believe in Joe Hendry to work this out for Hendry with TNA. Actually, what he said is that TNA talent are allowed to work at the PC. It's not just him. Oz and Glorious, why does Solomonster hate Shane so much? What did he ever do to him? We'll make that the new super chat. Trill Mexican 305 feels like from a business standpoint and people Shane McMahon knows in outside ventures that could help get doors open that Tony Khan could not get through. Well, again, what doors is he going to open? Doors with who? Networks? What network deal did he ever work out? What kind of streaming deal did he ever work out? There's no evidence of this. He worked outside of wrestling for a while. There's no evidence that those companies were even a success. There's very little that we know about that, other than he obviously left and came back to WWE. I mean, there were stories at the time that Shane was, I forgot the name of that fucking company, but one of the companies, because I think it might have been more than one company that he either ran or was a part of, but there were stories that one wasn't doing so well. So again, fact from fiction, I don't know, but what are these doors that he would supposedly be able to open for Tony Khan? I mean, I didn't know that he was such a power broker. Drew Johnson with the $50 super chat. I was a full-time AEW supporter. Says AEW sucks now. Now I watch WWE, CM Punk, and Drew. Well, of course you watch Drew because you share the same name. Says AEW, where is Ricky Starks? Well, he'll be in NXT soon. Oh, thank you. Yes, Justin G reminded me. It was called You On Demand. That's right. And they are permanently closed. I'm not saying Shane is the reason, but that was the company I was thinking of, and they're no longer in business, so I'm just saying. Tuxedo T Servo says, thanks, guys. Thank you. And thank you again to Drew for the 50. That means a lot. Our friend Yuyo Spingucci. Glad to hear that. Very fun. I don't know where that joke started, but thank you. Thank you, Yui. Eminem with the $25 super chat. Call her name and she will appear. Bree mode activated. By the way, based on the last few weeks, are you more interested in SummerSlam, Reigns' possible return, or All In, Danielson's last match? I'm interested in both shows, but if you ask me right now which show I am looking forward to more as far as the card or potential card is concerned, I think All In has the stronger card. And that's without all the matches officially being announced yet. But you can pretty much tell what the key matches are going to be. I think All In has the stronger card. But I'm looking forward to both shows. Devin from New Jersey, when Jericho goes on his next break or vacation, will Solo go with him? Why would I go with him? I need a vacation from him. So I hope he goes to a very sunny tropical destination. Or someplace unique. There's so many places on this earth. Might I suggest the Bermuda Triangle? I hear it's lovely this time of year. Oz and Glorious, to the hate-watching bedwetter here, whining about Jericho, who just took a beating from Suzuki that would have turned Mr. 12 Minutes of Action annually CM Punk into dust. We are not the same. Thanks, guys. That is a message from Oz and Glorious. By the way, we are at 420 likes. So light them if you got them. The Magic Plumber. Again, I don't think that's plumber, but that's what I read when I see that. Bird's Nest on the All Ego. Please help understand. I sure don't. Thank you for the super chat. Alex, Brother Solo, did Danielson make the right call leaving WWE in 2021? If he had re-signed, would you have loved to have seen him as a potential opponent for Cena next year? Yeah, that would have been great. Did he make the right decision? That's not for me to say. He made the decision that he felt he had to make. So he said tonight he's had more fun in the last 3 years than he's had his entire career. So the answer is yes, he made the right decision. He left. I'm sure he's getting paid very well. He has more time off than he would have had in WWE. He's been able to work the style he wants to work. He's been able to bleed. He loves to bleed. He wouldn't be able to bleed in WWE. That's what he wants to do. So he can bleed. He's worked Arena Mexico. He's got to work Okada for the first time. He got to work the Tokyo Dome for the first time in 20 years. I would say Bryan made the right call. He seems pretty happy to me. Uffman Entertainment, it's August. Thanks, guys. Yes, it is. It is August 1st. Groovy Goose, perhaps GTV was behind the Shane and Tony leak. See Dustin Rhodes barge into the room with his iPhone 4. Based on the quality of the photo, it looked like a fucking iPhone 4. Justin G, just waiting for Hangman to pull a butterfly knife. Gold Matthew. Heyman does the unthinkable and has a meeting with Tony Khan. Heyman becomes all elite and gets to pick one last wrestler to manage. Who do you pick and why? It's not up to me. It's up to Heyman. Right? Heyman gets the pick, not me. There's any number of people on that roster who would benefit from having Paul Heyman as a manager. One of them being Wardlow. Whatever happened to that guy? I don't know. It's like he doesn't exist anymore. You know, if you stuck Wardlow with Heyman, he'd skyrocket. We've got Mama is with us. AEW is filled with clarification. And I don't know what that means, but thank you for the super chat. We've got another one here. Unlike Y2J, we don't want you to retire, Monster. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Gold Matthew, best four-way ever. That was one night long ago. We won't talk about that. Where does the Four Pillars match rank? That was an excellent match. Where it ranks all time amongst all the four-way matches I've ever seen, I don't know. I can't even think of all the four-way matches I've ever seen. That one was excellent, though. I remember that one. That one was an excellent match. Joey Jojo Jr., gold, silver, bronze. Bryan Danielson's Ring of Honor run versus his WWE run versus his AEW run. The gold goes to Bryan's... Oh man, I'm tempted to say ROH. But the success that he had and the way he organically got over in WWE... I'm going to go WWE for the gold, Ring of Honor for the silver, and AEW for the bronze. He's had, I mean, it's tough because he's had great matches in every promotion he's ever been in. Look at the matches in AEW that he's had, right? That's probably how I would rank them, though, personally. Noel Mulligan. Hi, Solomonster. There's a shop in Dublin where you can get wrestling VHS tapes. I got SummerSlam 92 and 93 and the Best of Raw 1997. Well, that's very cool. I hope you have a as Michael Cole would say, I hope you have a VHS machine. Or as we humans call it, a VCR. I hope you have a VCR to watch them on. Freak like Navjeet. Solo, would you put it on your Mount Rushmore? Put what on my Mount Rushmore? I don't know what you're referring to. Justin G says, Peepa Rooney, Solo Nana, Disco Fever. Gold, silver, and bronze. The one with the word solo in it gets the gold. How's that? Trill Mexican, so much for thanks. So much for thanks. Of course. It's always thanks. As you well know. Again, do you want me to give you pussyfoot around the answers here and give you little, stupid answers, or answer the question the way that I answer questions? Don't be so uptight. Come on. You know the drill. Rumpelmane says Kamille biceps. Oh shit. Look at this. He's moved on from the feet to the biceps. I'm very proud of it. And then he says, who am I kidding? Kamille feet. I thought you had moved on to a different fetish, but it's back to the feet with him. Boney. Shame that Punk is gone from AEW, because if Shane is coming in, we could have finally gotten one best in the world against another best in the world. The dream match that we wanted. Who's this we? Who's this we that you're referring to? Base Beerus says, I rewatched the Shane versus Kane rivalry. Great stuff. That was from 2003. It's a long time ago. Yuri just got home from work, just cloaking, he says. Just cloaking. Just clocking in here now. Have you spoken about Punk saying that he is a top draw in two companies? How it didn't help them or hurt him when asked about AEW airing the fight with Jack Perry? No, I did. Is that from First Take? I didn't see the entire interview. So no, I have not seen that quote, and I have not talked about that. Base Beer says Rumpelmane's favorite stipulation: kiss my foot match. That's it. That's what it is. Uffman Entertainment being August 1st, we are 28 days away from the 30th anniversary of Brett versus Owen at the SummerSlam in the greatest cage match ever. Whispers watch along. You got to remind me when we get a little bit closer. I wouldn't mind doing a watch along for that one. So that sounds like a good idea. And yes, it is the greatest cage match, not counting Hell in a Cell. That's different. Greatest steel cage match, my favorite steel cage match of all time, Brett versus Owen at SummerSlam 94. We've got Kwambathi. Any more collabs with Greg in the future? Nothing planned right now, but you never know. I love working with Greg. Greg's a good guy. Shout out to Good Mic Work. Oz and Glorious breaking. Bliss Fan is rebranding as Live Fan. Bliss Fan is going to be very upset if we don't get Alexa Bliss back on TV very soon. And I don't have the heart to tell him that Alexa's not coming back anytime soon. I just don't think so. I don't have anything to base that on. Just my opinion. If you think she's going to be joining the Wyatt Six in the near future, I don't see it. It could happen eventually, but they seem to be taking their time with this. So he's going to be waiting for a while. Bret Hart, our favorite baker, is back. Oh shit, look at this. Suzuki with a gun. It's Suzuki Goon. Bret Hart says MJF leads, Darby Allin does movies. Jack Perry is cool but rude. Sammy Guevara is a party dude. That's right, they are the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And Yuri, Sports Illustrated, I believe. It's on Twitter now. Oh, so the Punk interview was... Yeah, Punk was on ESPN as well. So yeah, I did not see the Sports Illustrated one. So I will have to check that out during the week here before the podcast. And if he said anything of note, because what you described in the super chat before, I don't see what's so controversial about what he said. But if there's anything worth talking about from the interview, then I will be sure to talk about it. So thank you all. Drew Johnson and Yuri and Trill Mexican and everybody else for all the super chats. We are at 445 likes at the moment. So with that being said, let's go ahead and be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
You know what I just I just realized? Looking at this image, it looks like he's holding up Daniel Garcia's severed head. I will never be able to look at this image now the same way. Because you can't see his body. It just looks like he like ripped this man's head off. This is quite the graphic image here. He got tired of seeing him dance. So he said, I'm just going to rip your head off. This, you know what? Depending on how his contract situation works out, this could be the lasting image here of Daniel Garcia. What a final image that would be. All right, be the booker. Here we go. Begin with The Miz and Damian Sandow. What was their team name? Did they have a team name? I don't remember. Mizdow. That's what it was, right? What a lame name. Mizdow. All right, Mizdow. Going to be taking on Big Show and The Undertaker. The Unholy Alliance against Mizdow. How are we feeling about this match? I hate to kick off Be the Booker with a buzzer, but I feel like this would be a squash. This would end up being a squash match. I'm sorry. It's just, it doesn't make the cut for me. It doesn't make the cut. So we move on. Let's book a ladies match here. We've got the entire women's division listed in front of me here. And we're going to book ourselves a match. And the match that we are going to book first is going to be what? Nikki Cross is first up. One of the members of the Wyatt Six. This is although this is crazy Nikki Cross. And it will be Nikki Cross. Oz and Glorious, thank you for the $2. Nikki Cross is going to be taking on, oh, look who it is. It is Kamille, who we just saw make her Dynamite debut in ring tonight. Kamille and Nikki Cross. See, I'm inclined on that one to go Bell. I'll go Bell on that. I think so. I like that match. Crazy Nikki against Kamille. All right, we're 1-1, which means it all comes down to our main event. I like when it comes down to the main event. This is the tiebreaker here. We begin with Buddy Matthews, the recently re-signed Buddy Matthews. Where are all these people talking about how he wants out of AEW? He wants out of AEW so bad he re-signed with them, probably for fucking 3 years. Buddy Matthews. Stepping into the ring with the immortal Hulk Hogan. Man, look at that belt. Look at that championship right there. Is that not the best looking belt you've ever seen? Hulk Hogan and Buddy Matthews. Now, we know how the match would go. Would not end well for Mr. Matthews. But that would be an interesting match, you know, having Buddy Matthews selling for the big boot. Yeah, I think it would be a perfectly fine Saturday night's main event match back in the day. That's what I think. Not a squash. Nope, not a squash. A Hogan win for sure, but no, I don't think it would be a squash. Everyone's saying squash. Come on. You got to give Buddy more than that. Would not be a squash. Underground Hopscotch champion Jay Crazed as fuck says, I appreciate all the positive words you give here. It helps me daily. Thank you, sir. Well, I am happy that you have taken from that positivity and that it has helped you out and has made your day better. Thank you, Jay. Oz and Glorious, AEW has been a billion times better without Disco. Drew Johnson, Solomonster, do you own a VCR? I do. And Groovy Goose, channel member for 27 months. Thanks for being a calm in the crazy world of professional wrestling. You are very welcome. Money Benny, what is your dream Sasha Banks match? Sasha Banks dream match. Sasha Banks against Julia. 1-on-1. Which we are not going to get now. But of the people who are, I'm thinking of like currently active people. I think Sasha and Julia would have been a fun match. Hogan versus Brody King would have been an awesome 80s match. Hogan against Bruiser Brody could have been a late 80s, early 90s feud for him in the WWF. Base Beerus, top 3 Tarantino films. Well, you got to have Pulp Fiction on there. Pulp Fiction. God, now you're going to make me try to remember all the different Tarantino films. I rather enjoyed the Inglourious Bastards one, where they went around killing Nazis. That was fun. I could sit around watching that all day. I don't know. I'm coming up on empty on what the third one would be. Spit some more Tarantino movies at me. I'm sure I'm forgetting like a major one that I would want in my top 3, but those are the first 2 that came to mind. Justin with his Betamax. I never had a Betamax. Ooh, Reservoir Dogs. That's a good one. You know, I'm starting to wonder if maybe Rumplemane is Quentin Tarantino on a burner account. That's why he's always talking about feet. Hey, Quentin, I see you. Don't cheap out on those super chats, Quentin. I know you're loaded, okay? Gonna spread some of that wealth around. Yuri, how good would Prime Vader be against Rey Mysterio? What? Prime Vader against Rey Mysterio? Why would you do that to Rey? I've talked about Prime Vader against Brock Lesnar. Prime Brock and Prime Vader? Sign me up for that, man. That would have been a hell of a match. Ooh, Django Unchained. That one was good too. Rumple Tarantino. Who is the bigger foot freak? I don't know. I just love how in God, was it From Dusk Till Dawn with the scene with Salma Hayek when she was dancing and put her she was pouring the liquor down her foot and stuck her foot in his mouth. I'm like, you son of a bitch. Like, he put that scene in that movie and you know he enjoyed every second of it. He knew what he was doing. Kill Bill. Yeah, I wasn't as into the Kill Bill stuff as some people were. Base Beerus. Buy or sell. Giant Gonzalez against Omos. I think I would quit watching wrestling. Honestly, I wouldn't even buy or sell. I would just stop watching. Yuri says, me and my coworkers were BSing. What's a lopsided match that you think would be good? It's lopsided, but okay. And I was like Vader and Rey. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty lopsided, actually. Oz and Glorious, did you see Samantha Irvin's picture? Wow. Picture? What picture? There's a Samantha Irvin picture? You gonna make me check this out now? What happened here? Apparently there's a picture of Samantha Irvin. There's a lot of pictures of Samantha Irvin. Is there a particular picture I'm supposed to be looking at here? Let's see. What Samantha... Oh my. I do believe I have found the Samantha Irvin picture. Well, all right. There you go. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Uffman Entertainment. Fun fact, that wasn't Salma. It was a stunt double, but I'm sure he still enjoyed that. Was it a stunt double? Well, whoever it was, she looked very, very attractive. Braun, why do people hate Sami Zayn now? I don't think they hate Sami Zayn. I think a lot of people are just ready to move on from this Intercontinental title reign that he's been on. But I don't know that that equates to hate on Sami Zayn. I'm not seeing this hate. Chris Faplander, between Bukkake and feet, these streams are wild. Yes, says the guy that has Chris Faplander as his name here in the chat. Eminem says better song to come out to on, or better song to cruise to. I'm sorry, cruise to on the highway. Red Line or Atlantis? If you're on the highway, you got to cruise to Red Line. And Justin Hesse coming in with a 1992 super chat. Should be popping up. Justin, thank you. No message. Power Spying Games. Random thoughts on Eternal Flame by the Bangles. I mean, is it one of my favorites? It's not, but it's fine. Base Beerus.
With a tear
there he is.
in my eye.
There he is. There's Justin with the 1992 with a tear in my eye. Base Beerus, God of Seduction, says, wouldn't it make sense now more so than ever in 2024 to have interactive events like Taboo Tuesday? It would, but I don't have any interest in seeing that as a PLE. So I think that that would work better as a television gimmick. I think as a TV gimmick, try to draw a big rating and get people, you know, interacting as far as the show is concerned. But PLEs need to have a set card in advance that you promote. Oz and Glorious, I love how the show turns into Loveline after Be the Booker. Are we sure Loveline is what we're talking about here? It's more like, God, what was that HBO show? More like Red Shoe Diaries than Loveline. Although I guess Red Shoe Diaries was Showtime. Or maybe Skinamax. I don't remember. Yuri says, oh, good Lord. Yes. Yuri, I agree.
I am the learning tree. Thanks, guys.
Thank you again, Base Beerus. And thank you, Oz, and thank you, Yuri, and thank you all. We got one more here. Power Spying Games. 8 months into 2024, still no Bree mode. in Be the Booker-ish. Don't jinx it. You'll speak it into existence. Wasn't Red Shoe Diaries, David Duchovny was on that, right? Wasn't he on there? I think David Duchovny was Red Shoe Diaries. Silk Stockings. It wasn't. It was not Silk Stockings following Raw. It was Silk Stockings. Silk Stockings, which had a bitchin' opening theme, by the way. It was Duchovny. See, I remember that. I remember that. Didn't he go to rehab for sex addiction in real life? I think he did. I mean, I guess not surprising, though, if the guy from Red Shoe Diaries ended up in sex rehab. I'm almost positive he ended up in sex rehab because he was a sex addict. A West Coast James, shout out to you. 38 months of channel membership. That is awesome. He is one of our green skulls. Thank you, sir. Well, we certainly went off the deep end here in this discussion, but it's all good. It's all good. And now we get to come back and do it all over again on Friday because we have SmackDown, the final SmackDown before SummerSlam, and I believe we're getting a tag team title match with the Bloodline winning the titles from DIY. I would be shocked if it goes any other way but that. And then SummerSlam on Saturday. I'll be live on YouTube on Saturday night. We have episode 873 of the podcast coming up on Sunday. So a lot of content coming up. I hope you support. You could also go back and check out the 3 hours of discussion with myself and JD on his channel on TNT last night. The best duo anywhere in the community every Tuesday night at 8:30. So go check that out. All the people, by the way, who gifted channel memberships, and I don't have all the names listed in front of me right now, but Eminem just gifted one. But everybody who gifted memberships, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's a good way to bring people on in, and they can use the emojis, and they can check out some of the archived content that's up for channel members, and hopefully new content soon. So thank you for all of the gifted memberships and the super chats. Be well. Stay safe. I will see you guys back here in less than 48 hours for SmackDown, hopefully. And until then, yes, everyone's talking about Samantha Urban. Boy, you guys need to get out more, man. Go take a cold shower. But if you missed it, it's all over Twitter. It's not hard to find. I'll see you guys on Friday night. Take care.